Right now, as you watch this video, the world economy is being strangled, not by a virus, not by a stock market crash, by 30 miles of water, the Strait of Hormuz, the narrowest, most dangerous, most important waterway on Earth. Every single day, 1/5 of the world's oil passes through this tiny gap between Iran and Oman, 20 million barrels every day. If this strait closes, the entire global economy collapses. And right now, it's closed. This is the story of how we got here and why it could affect your life tomorrow. For thousands of years, the Strait of Hormuz has been a gateway. Ancient Persian traders sailed through it carrying spices, silk, and gold. The Portuguese seized it in 1515 and turned it into a toll point for the spice trade. The British took control in the 1800s to protect their route to India. Empires rose and fell, but the strait always mattered. Then, in the early 20th century, something changed everything: oil. Suddenly, the Strait of Hormuz wasn't just a trade route, it was the jugular vein of the global economy. Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Iraq, Qatar, the UAE, Iran, all of them depend on this narrow passage to get their oil to the world. 1/5 of all the oil consumed on Earth moves through this 30-mile gap. 1/5 of the world's liquefied natural gas. If you drive a car, heat your home, or buy food that was shipped across an ocean, you depend on the Strait of Hormuz, whether you know it or not. And Iran sits right on top of it. Iran's coastline runs along the entire northern edge of the strait. Its military bases overlook the shipping lanes. Its missiles can reach any ship passing through. For decades, Iran has threatened to close the strait. During the Iran-Iraq War in the 1980s, both sides attacked oil tankers. The U.S. Navy intervened. American warships escorted tankers through the strait. In 1988, the U.S. accidentally shot down an Iranian passenger plane over the strait, killing all 290 people on board. Iran has never forgotten that. In 2019, Iran seized the British oil tanker in the strait. The world held its breath, but the crisis passed. Every few years, Iran reminded the world of its power over the strait, but it never actually closed it. Until now. On February 28, 2026, the United States and Israel launched a massive airstrike against Iran. They targeted military bases, nuclear facilities, government buildings. Iran's supreme leader, Ali Khamenei, was killed in the strikes. It was the most significant assassination since the killing of Osama bin Laden. Iran's response was immediate. Missiles and drones were launched at Israel, at U.S. military bases, at Gulf state allies. And then Iran played its ultimate card. It closed the Strait of Hormuz. The Revolutionary Guard issued a warning: no ships would be allowed to pass. Any vessel entering the strait would be considered hostile. On March 1st, for the first time in modern history, the strait went silent. No ships appeared, zero traffic. Maersk, the world's largest shipping company, suspended all operations. CMCG stopped. Hapag-Lloyd stopped. Every major carrier pulled out. 3,000 ships used to pass through every month. Now, almost none. The effect was immediate. Oil prices shot above $90 a barrel. Gas stations around the world raised prices overnight. In Asia, fuel shortages began within days. Japan, South Korea, India, countries that depended on Gulf oil had no backup plan. Global shipping routes were thrown into chaos, and it was only the beginning. Iran didn't just block ships, it laid mines in the water. Sea mines hidden beneath the surface, waiting for any vessel that tried to pass. The U.S. military later admitted it could take 6 months to fully clear the mines. And there was another problem. Iran reportedly lost track of some of the mines it had planted. Even Iran itself couldn't fully reopen the strait if it wanted to. In Washington, President Trump claimed the war was already won. He said Iran's military had been destroyed. He said the strait was open. Neither was true. On March 15th, Trump asked NATO and China to help reopen the strait. They refused. In late March, Trump threatened to bomb Iran to the Stone Age if it didn't cooperate. Iran's Revolutionary Guard responded that the strait would not be opened to the enemies of the nation. On April 8th, a temporary ceasefire was agreed upon. Iran was supposed to reopen the strait. Instead, it began charging tolls, over $1 million per ship. Iran turned the world's most important waterway into a toll booth. Talks between the US and Iran were held in Islamabad on April 11th. They collapsed within 24 hours. On April 13th, Trump ordered a US naval blockade of all Iranian ports. Over 10,000 US personnel, a dozen warships, dozens of aircraft. Now there were two blockades, Iran blocking the strait, America blocking Iran. A dual blockade, the first of its kind in modern history. 20,000 sailors were trapped on 2,000 ships in the Persian Gulf. The International Maritime Organization called it the worst shipping crisis since World War II. On April 18th, Iranian gunboats opened fire on an Indian oil tanker. The same day, a French container ship was hit with a rocket. A German cruise ship reported being threatened with destruction over radio. On April 22nd, a Greek cargo ship was attacked with gunfire and rocket-propelled grenades, despite having permission to cross. The strait had become a war zone. Meanwhile, a shadow fleet of Iranian tankers continued to operate. Fake flags, disabled tracking signals, shell companies. Over 200 vessels slipped through the blockade between March and mid-April. Iran was still exporting oil, just not through the front door. The consequences spread across the globe. Oil above $90, gas prices at a record highs in Europe and Asia. Japan declared an energy emergency. The UAE left OPEC, a seismic shift in the oil industry. Global shipping costs doubled, then tripled. Food prices rose as fertilizer shipments from the Gulf stopped. Developing countries were hit hardest. Countries already drowning in debt now faced fuel they couldn't afford. And at the center of it all, 30 miles of water. 24 miles wide at its narrowest point, 2 shipping lanes, each just 2 miles wide. That's it. That's what separates a functioning global economy from collapse. For 70 years, the world built its economy around the assumption that this strait would always be open. No country diversified enough. No alternative was built fast enough. Saudi Arabia has one pipeline that bypasses the strait. The UAE has another. Together, they can move maybe 5 million barrels a day. The strait carried 20 million. There is no plan B for the Strait of Hormuz. In 1953, the CIA overthrew Iran's democracy for oil. In 1979, Iran's revolution was fueled by decades of Western interference. In 2026, the consequences of those decisions are playing out in real time. The oil that started it all is now the weapon, and the 30 miles of water that carry it have become the most dangerous place on Earth. As of today, the strait remains effectively closed. Negotiations have stalled, mines are still in the water, ships are still stranded. 20,000 sailors, 2,000 ships, waiting. No one knows when this ends, but one thing is certain. The world will never look at the Strait of Hormuz the same way again. If this series has changed how you see the world, subscribe because this story isn't over, not even close. See you next time.